everyone, welcome back to the Stitches and Scribbles channel. My name is Erin, and I had absolutely no planning when it came into making this video. It was something I literally thought of 5 seconds ago and decided I should turn the camera on. But I have been really fascinated lately, like most of the crochet internet, with the 6-day star blanket patterns from Betty McKnit. And I know that there was some drama surrounding these patterns that I saw online, and instead of focusing on the drama, which I think ended up being something not that significant, I wanted to focus on the patterns themselves and kind of do a pattern review. So I figured the easiest way to do that, instead of making multiple full-size blankets, was to make some baby blankets. So I have some baby yarn pulled out. These are all slightly different weight baby yarns, so they won't be an exact comparison. I'm just using what's in my stash, but the plan is to make these the 6-day star blanket, so the original one, the 6-day super star blanket, which I have made one of in the past, and the 6-day supernova blanket. These are all patterns from Betty McKnit's website. I will be using the free versions that are just available on her blog. She does have some tutorials on YouTube as well, and you can purchase the PDF version of the pattern to get it ad-free. So there's lots of different ways to check out the pattern. I was thinking about this a lot just because I've been really into making star-shaped blankets lately. I'm actually working on another one that's from a Bella Coco pattern. But I thought this would be a fun experiment to just kind of sit down and do. I was looking for some kind of fun, easy, fast projects to work on, so baby blankets, especially crochet ones, are a great fit for that. So I'm going to jump in first with the original version, the 6-day star blanket, which is the easiest of the three. And this pattern calls for you to have, sorry for the jingles, a variety of hooks available so that you can size up as you go, because you usually want the I forgot all of my words here for a second. Usually when you're working on this blanket, it eventually starts to kind of curl up on itself, and you don't want that. So the way that you change that is by sizing up hooks as soon as you notice it starting to kind of like curl in on itself. So I have 4 hooks out. They range from a 6.5 to a 7 to an 8 and a 9, and I do have more if I need to go up. But I had heard someone else say to start with a size bigger than what's called for on the yarn. I can't remember if that's in the pattern or not, but I definitely heard somebody talk about it. And since this yarn calls for a 5.5 millimeter hook, we're going to start with a 6.5 millimeter hook. I did get this yarn at Goodwill for $1.99 a skein, but this is Red Heart Hopscotch in the color Water Slide. So let's get into the crocheting. It's been about an hour, and this is how far I've gotten. I am at least 3/4 done with the first skein. It's pretty floppy. So I would guess that if you're doing this in a bulky yarn, this could easily be a like 4 to 5 hour project. I do crochet pretty fast, so take that into account. The other thing is that I am already on the last hook that I pulled out, so the changing hook sizes part of the directions is no joke. But so far, I think this is really cute. I think that these star blankets as baby blankets would be really cute for the people who do the every month photos of their baby like laying down, and they have the little markers for the numbers and everything. I think that this would be a really cute way to do that. So if you're making this as a gift, you could even gift it with the like the little signs with the how many months old they are. If you've got a Cricut, you can definitely make some cute ones. But yeah, this is what it looks like so far. This one is a pretty bulky yarn. It's labeled as a medium 4 on the tag, but I would put it more as a 5, I think. But yeah, that's what we've got so far for the original 6-day star blanket. I have the first star blanket variation finished. Again, this is the original 6-day star blanket. It has 7 points. I used all 3 skeins of yarn. I have not woven in the ends yet, as you can see. And I did choose to end with a crab stitch border, which is not in the pattern. But there are plenty of tutorials for crab stitch on YouTube if you're interested in learning how to do it. And I think this gave me a pretty good size for a baby blanket. I had a very small scrap ball left over that I added to my scrap supply. So for the next one, I am going to do the 6-day Superstar blanket, which I believe has 14 points instead of 7. So it comes out slightly more circular. And I'm going to be doing this in this yarn, which is a different weight. This is Yarn Bee Urban Chic, which I believe is a discontinued yarn. And it is in the colorway Caribbean Vibes. And it is, what is this yarn? It's 78% acrylic, 22% cotton. It's labeled as a lightweight 3. So I'm going to follow my same rule from before of starting with a hook that's just a little bit big for the yarn. This recommends a 5mm hook, so I'll probably start with a 6 or a 5.5 and then start the Superstar blanket pattern. Alright, I have finished my second star blanket. This again was the Superstar blanket. So it has 14 points instead of 7, and I did it in that kind of variegated sort of self-striping baby yarn. It did end up being self-striping in some places. Like there's definitely way more blue and yellow and white than there was any other color. So I definitely have some sections where the other colors are very concentrated and sections where it's really just blue and white and yellow. But I think it turned out pretty cute. Still haven't woven in the ends on this one or on my original one. They did turn out to be pretty close to the same size, I think. Now realizing I haven't actually held them up next to each other, but they're pretty close in size comparatively. So I would say that my yardage was just about right with those 3 skeins of the 3-weight baby yarn, and I only had a little tiny scrap ball left. So on that note, I'm ready to start the 6-day Supernova blanket, which is the last one in kind of the original 6-day star blanket series that Betty McKnit has. There are some that have like ridges or other stitches in them, but these are all the ones that use the same 3 stitches of granny stitch, double crochet, and single crochet. This one it looks like it also has 14 points total, but the points are not all the same size. So you kind of start with a regular 6-day star blanket with the 7 points, and then you add like little points in between them. So you alternate between a big point and a little point going around. So it ends up with 14 points, but they look quite different. I'm going to be doing this in Lion Brand Mandala, again, just working with what I had on stash. This is the color Nifflers, and it goes kind of just in a pastel rainbow. So it starts with like a minty green on this skein, goes into like a lime, a yellow, a peach, a pink, a like kind of mauve, a lavender, a like purpley blue, and then back to like the aqua mint color again. I'm not 100% sure that one skein is going to be enough for this. I'll kind of see what it looks like when it's done. But in case this isn't enough, I do also have this skein, which is a different color. This colorway is called Valkyrie, and it has more of a like dusty purpley brown, a yellow, and then the mint green and like teal colors, which look very similar. So when I get to the end of this one, which ends with the like turquoisey color, I'll start from the turquoise on this skein and then work my way back through the colors so that they blend together. But we'll just kind of see how far the first one goes. I'm going to do the same thing as with the other ones, start with smaller hooks and work my way up. Because this yarn calls for a 5mm hook, I'll probably start with a 5.5 and we'll go from there. So I have finished the first skein of the baby yarn, and while this is kind of big enough to be a blanket by itself, I realized the way the pattern was written, the smaller points only emerged after I was like almost done with one skein, and I kind of want to see what it looks like as those smaller points get bigger because they're kind of not doing much right now. So I am going to go ahead and work with the second skein. I already connected it and I rewound it so that it starts with that teal so that it kind of matches up with where the other one left off. So we're going to continue this pattern. I do like this one so far, but since the little points so far are kind of underwhelming, I'm curious to see what it looks like as it gets bigger. Okay, let's wrap up these baby blankets. So I finished the Supernova baby blanket. I did go through both skeins to almost the end. I have just a little bit of the teal left from the end of the skein. I did end with a crab stitch just like I did on the other ones. And as much as I want to like this one because the colors are very cool, I would say that the Supernova version was probably my least favorite one to make, just because of the fact that the smaller points didn't appear until you were a good chunk of the way into the blanket. And it was also the hardest to memorize for repeats. So because of all that, I would say it's my least favorite. I do think it turned out to be a beautiful blanket, but I would highly recommend that if you want to do this one, I would do a full-size blanket, like an adult size one, and not try to do it as a baby blanket, because I think it just doesn't, the intended effect just isn't there as much in the baby size. But still very cute. It did turn out to be a very large baby blanket because of that issue with the stitches. So just keep that in mind. Comparing it back to the other two versions, I think the original was my favorite to make, closely followed by the, am I getting the names backwards? Let me just look. Okay, no, I did have it right. This is the Supernova, this is the original Star Blanket, and this is the Superstar Blanket. I think the Superstar Blanket has the advantage of the fact that the middle on bigger ones kind of looks like a snowflake. But this was definitely the easiest one to memorize, probably my favorite one to work on, and not just because it was in bulky yarn, just for all those factors. So talking about this pattern and why I was kind of hesitant to do a video on it and talk about it was just because there was a lot of misleading information going on around this pattern. Obviously do your own research if you want to delve into the lore of what happened with this pattern. I watched a video on the Cinnaminutes channel that described this, and then a couple other like TikToks and things I saw here and there, which also it's wild that in the process of filming this video, I went from here's a cool thing I saw on TikTok to TikTok is going to shut down literally tomorrow, the day that I'm filming this, because it's January 18th. But from what I can best decipher from all the things I've seen on the internet with this pattern, don't feel bad making it. It seems like the creator of the pattern didn't do anything wrong that I can tell. What happened was there was a creator on TikTok, and I'm not going to go into her name because at this point TikTok's gone, so it doesn't matter. But there was a creator on TikTok who criticized the original pattern for not being accessible to people with dyslexia, learning disabilities, people who had trouble reading the pattern. She said there were too many ads on it. So she wrote up her own version of the pattern and was distributing it online. And this is a problem for quite a few reasons. One, that's someone else's work that you're now making available for free. Two, the pattern itself is actually free and it's written in standard crochet terminology. But there is a paid version so that you can get it ad-free, made by the creator. So that was taking revenue away from Betty McKnitt, who wrote the original pattern. There really weren't that many accessibility issues with the pattern. It seems more like there's a significant portion of the crafting community that doesn't know traditional crochet terminology, and that's fine. And you can make notes on a pattern for yourself in order to be able to recreate it more easily, but those notes should stay private. And you shouldn't be distributing them online because you're essentially copying someone else's pattern and making it available through a different source, a different platform, stuff like that. There were some allegations that Betty McKnitt didn't respond with kindness on some of these issues, but honestly, if someone's stealing your design, like, you have every right to be upset about that. I think the controversy surrounding this pattern is mostly gone and has mostly been cleared up. But in case somebody mentions it while you're making it, that's kind of the spiel. Betty McKnitt does have an accessibility button on the website now in order to make things a little bit easier to read, but the pattern itself is not changed. So I thought the pattern was pretty easy to read. I definitely went through a really long period in my crochet and knitting journey where I really struggled with reading patterns. I preferred like video tutorials and things like that, but learning to read patterns is a learned skill. So if it's a hobby that you want to invest more time in. I would recommend learning how to read traditional patterns, even if you're doing a written pattern side by side with a tutorial for a while, just so that you can get that terminology down and really practice kind of counting your stitches in the ways that different creators count their stitches and patterns. So that's kind of the controversy of the star blankets, but they clearly had their moment on social media, especially TikTok. It's a good pattern and a popular pattern for a reason. These were a lot of fun to make. I'm a little sad that now the source of inspiration of where I personally first saw these is going to be gone now. I'm definitely going to miss kind of the viral crochet patterns. I'm sure that they'll turn up in other platforms as well, but it just doesn't quite hit the same on platforms that aren't TikTok. So we'll see how that goes. But that's going to be it for this video. I now have lots of baby blankets for when the people in my life have more kids, so that I'll have those ready for whoever comes next. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure you hit the subscribe button down below, and also check in the description for updates on my other social media platforms, so that you can follow me elsewhere. Obviously, TikTok is not going to be an option anymore, unless you're outside of the United States, but I can't post there. So, yeah, do with that what you will. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, everyone.